And the reason why I can talk about it so candidly, to be honest with you, is because it has been so much time that has passed. And I feel I'm in a really great place, and so is he.
Gayle King just went on one of the biggest podcasts in the world and spilled every last detail about the night her marriage exploded. Not just the scandal itself, the exact time, the towel, the best friend, all of it. Because for years, Gayle has been remarkably open about the betrayal that ended her marriage to William Bumpus. But interestingly, while Gayle was telling the story in vivid detail, the man at the center of that story was saying almost nothing. Until now. After years of silence, William Bumpus has finally decided to speak out. And what he had to say is reopening old wounds, reigniting old debates, and leaving a lot of people wondering whether there's more to this story than they've been led to believe. It's quite a lot to unpack. My advice? Get comfy while we dig in. Setting the scene. Who are these people? Before we get into the statement and all the drama that came with it, let's make sure we're all on the same page because not everyone knows the full backstory here. Gayle King, if you somehow don't know her, is one of the most recognizable faces in American media. She's a co-host on CBS Mornings, she's been one of Oprah Winfrey's closest friends for decades, and she's built a career as one of the most respected journalists in the game. But behind all that success is a personal story that has followed her for over 30 years. From 1982 to 1993, Gayle King was married to William Bumpus, an attorney and assistant attorney general in Connecticut. Together, they had 2 children, a daughter named Kirby and a son, William Bumpus Jr. Now, William Bumpus has never really been a public figure. He's a lawyer by profession and, as he himself has admitted, a private person by nature. He stayed out of the spotlight for most of his life, even during the years when Gayle was becoming a household name. But in 2026, that quiet came to a very public end. So what exactly happened to blow all of this up again after decades? Well, it started with a podcast episode. And not just any podcast, one of the biggest ones on the planet. But before we get into what Gayle said on that podcast, do you know the actual details of what happened the night everything fell apart? Because trust me, it's more specific and more shocking than most people realize. What Gayle said on Call Her Daddy. On Wednesday, May 27th, Gayle King appeared on Call Her Daddy with host Alex Cooper. And during that conversation, the CBS Mornings co-host recalled, in full detail, the night she unexpectedly caught then-husband William Bumpus in the middle of an affair. And to make it worse, it happened while their 2 young children were home. Here's how it went down. Gayle said she got back from the airport earlier than expected. Her trip had been canceled. And the moment she walked in, she knew something was off. The house alarm was set, which William apparently never did when he was home. That little detail alone, a set alarm, was enough to make her stomach drop. She said William came flying out of the bedroom wrapped in a towel and immediately tried to block her from going inside, straight up warning her that someone was in there. Now, imagine that for a second. Your husband in a towel, blocking the bedroom door, telling you someone is inside. Gayle searched the house and found a woman hiding behind the door, also wrapped in a towel. And then came the gut punch. The woman was her close friend. Not a stranger or someone she'd never met. Her friend. Gayle has recalled the moment with such striking precision that she's remembered every detail for 35 years. The pain was so deep, she's never forgotten this chapter of her life. That tells you everything about how deep that wound went. And if you think it couldn't get any more unbelievable, after everything went down, William then drove the woman to the train station so she could get back to her own husband. I'll let that sink in. Their marriage lasted another 3 years after that night before they officially divorced in 1993. Gayle has spoken about the affair over the years in various interviews, but the Call Her Daddy appearance was her most detailed and unfiltered account yet. Now, here's what a lot of people are asking. This happened almost 40 years ago. So why is everyone talking about it right now? And why did William Bumpus suddenly feel the need to say something? William Bumpus breaks his silence. The full statement. On the same day Gayle's podcast episode dropped, May 27, 2026, William Bumpus released an official statement to Page 6. And this is where things get interesting. Because this statement isn't what a lot of people expected. There's no bitterness. There's no trying to flip the narrative. There's no petty clap-back energy. But there's also something in it that feels very deliberate. Like a man who is carefully choosing every single word. Let's go through it piece by piece. He opens by offering his deepest apologies to Gayle, to their daughter Kirby, and her husband Virgil, to their son William and his wife Elise, and to their 3 grandchildren, for the pain he caused decades ago. Right out of the gate, accountability. He's not starting with excuses. He's not starting with context. He leads with an apology that names every single member of his family, his daughter, her husband, his son's wife, his 3 grandchildren. That's specific. That's intentional. He continues by stating that those actions were his and that he has long owned them, including publicly in his own words in 2016, which he says still stand. And this is an important line, because he's reminding people that this isn't the first time he's addressed this. Back in 2016, when Gayle first started speaking publicly about the affair, Bumpus released a statement then too. He called himself a work in progress and said he'd been haunted by the decision for 26 years. That 2016 apology was real. It was public, and he's essentially saying that still counts. I didn't just say it once and move on. Then he says something genuinely gracious, acknowledging that Gayle has every right to share what was a painful chapter that changed the trajectory of their marriage and their family nearly 40 years ago. He states that he respects her right to tell her story, and that is where he will leave it. That right there is not a small thing to say. A lot of people, especially exes, would push back. They'd say, that was private, or why bring this up now? But he didn't go there. He acknowledged her right to speak and stepped back. Then the tone shifts slightly. And this is the part people have been talking about. He notes that it was Gayle who chose, together with him, to co-parent successfully from the very beginning, describing it as a testament to their shared commitment to their children above all else, and now their grandchildren. He adds that the love and camaraderie they built through that work has carried them all these years, and that they remain in a good place today. He also reveals something most people didn't know, that Gayle motivated and supported him while he pursued his Yale law degree. He says he is profoundly grateful to her, calling their children 2 of the most precious gifts of his life. He's making a point here, gently but clearly. Yes, he did something terrible. But the story didn't end there. They built something after that, together. They co-parented. They stayed in each other's lives. And according to him, they are genuinely still on good terms today. He even drops this detail, mentioning that Gayle recently sent birthday wishes to his 16-year-old daughter, Poet. That's Bumpus's daughter from a later relationship, a 16-year-old he's currently raising as a single dad. And the fact that Gayle sent birthday wishes to that child? That says something about who Gayle King is as a person. And Bumpus clearly wants people to know he sees that. He wraps up with what might be the most personal part of the whole statement, admitting that he did not fully appreciate Gayle's public life during their marriage because he is a private person by nature, but stressing that it was no reflection on her true talent and abilities. He describes himself as a genuine admirer and fan, noting that he had a front-row seat to her extraordinary success. He adds that he continues to work at being the best version of himself, grounded by the friendship, encouragement, and support Gayle has shown him over the years. This closing line is doing a lot of heavy lifting. He's acknowledging something he probably didn't say enough when they were married, that he didn't fully get it. He didn't appreciate the scale of what Gayle was building, and rather than defend that, he owns it and flips it into genuine admiration. But here's the real question. Is this statement enough? Because the internet has thoughts, and they're not all the same. The internet's reaction and why it's divided. When William Bumpus's statement dropped, people fell into a few distinct camps. And it's actually kind of fascinating to watch, because the reactions reveal a lot about how we think about accountability, forgiveness, and public airing of private trauma. Camp 1. He handled it with class. A lot of people, and honestly, a lot of people who were fully expecting this to be messy, walked away impressed. He didn't deflect. He didn't attack Gayle. He didn't bring up things she's done or said over the years to try and even the score. For a man who describes himself as deeply private, choosing to release any statement at all, let alone one this gracious, is notable. The apology is direct. The acknowledgement is real. And the way he talks about Gayle, it reads like genuine respect. Camp 2. This statement was damage control, not accountability. Then there are people who felt like the statement was a little too polished, too measured, like a PR move dressed up as vulnerability. Some pointed out that he waited until the same day Gayle's podcast dropped to release it, meaning this wasn't unprompted reflection. It was a response. And for some people, the fact that he referenced his 2016 apology felt like he was trying to say, I already dealt with this. Why are we here again? Camp 3. Why is this a story at all in 2026? And then there are people, a surprisingly large number, who are genuinely asking, why is this being relitigated? The affair happened in 1990. The divorce happened in 1993. Gayle has talked about it multiple times over the years. Bumpus apologized publicly in 2016. Both of them say they're in a good place. So what's the point of going back? The counter to that, of course, is that Gayle has every right to share her own story on her own timeline, especially on a platform like Call Her Daddy that is specifically designed for those kinds of raw, personal conversations. Nobody gets to tell a woman when she's done processing her own trauma. Now, here's something that most people are completely glossing over in all of this. Something that actually reframes the entire conversation. And it has to do with what William Bumpus said in 2016, and why that statement matters just as much as this new one. The 2016 apology, and why it still stands. A lot of the coverage around this story has focused entirely on the 2026 statement. But if you want the full picture, you have to go back to 2016, because that's when William Bumpus first publicly owned what he did. When Gayle started speaking more openly about the affair back then, Bumpus released a statement to Page 6 in which he described Gayle as a great wife, an outstanding mother, and a wonderful co-parent, saying he was forever grateful for everything she had done and continued to do to enrich his life and that of their children. He described himself as a work in progress, saying he had been striving for 26 years to become a better man and father. He acknowledged being haunted by the life-altering decision he had made, and while he said he had dealt with it privately, he publicly apologized for what he called the major transgression that had dramatically changed all of their lives. That word, haunted, is not a word people throw around lightly. That's the language of a man who has genuinely carried the weight of what he did. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't spinning. He called it a major transgression. He called himself a work in progress. And 10 years later, in 2026, he says that statement still stands. That's actually a significant thing to say. He's not distancing himself from it. He's not saying, well, things are different now. He's saying, I meant it then. I mean it now. The through line between both statements is consistency. Whether or not you think he's done enough, you can't accuse the man of flip-flopping or running from it. He's been saying the same thing, with the same tone of accountability for a decade. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, because for all the focus on William Bumpus and his statement, the real story here might actually be about Gayle King herself. What does it mean that she's still talking about this? And what does it say about her that she's chosen to do it with this much vulnerability? What this really tells us about Gayle King. Look, here's something that gets lost when we treat this like a drama or a takedown story. Gayle King has been carrying this story for over 3 decades. She was in her 30s when it happened. She had 2 babies at home. She walked into her own house and found her husband and her best friend. And she could have buried it. A lot of people in her position, especially people building public careers, would have kept it private, moved on, and never mentioned it again. But Gayle has talked about it on a radio show, in a Vanity Fair profile, and now on Call Her Daddy, in the most detailed version she's ever given. And every single time, she's talked about healing, about choosing to co-parent gracefully, about not letting bitterness win. Back when she first opened up about the marriage ending, Gayle told Will Smith that she had gone to marital counseling and that having been divorced since 1993, she was fully healed. She said she had worked it out, that she was not bitter, and that she was genuinely okay. She also said something that stuck, emphasizing how important it was for people who had children together to get along. That quote is from years ago, and you can see how that philosophy played out in real life, in the fact that she sends birthday wishes to William's teenage daughter, in the fact that he calls her a genuine admirer and fan who offered him friendship, encouragement, and support. These are 2 people who went through something devastating and chose to build something functional, even good, on the other side of it. That's not the story of a villain and a victim. That's a story about 2 people who messed up, got hurt, healed, and figured out how to move forward for the sake of their family. So after all of this, what do we actually take away from William Bumpus finally speaking up? Is this the end of the story, or does it open up a whole new chapter? The bigger takeaway. Here's my honest read on this whole situation. William Bumpus did something unforgivable, and he seems to know it. He's never tried to minimize it, never tried to blame anyone else, never tried to make Gayle the bad guy for talking about it. The apologies, both in 2016 and in 2026, are consistent, direct, and carry real weight. But the timing of the 2026 statement matters. He released it the same day Gayle's podcast dropped. That's not a coincidence. Whether he knew it was coming and chose to get ahead of it, or whether he felt the need to respond once it went public, either way, it was a reactive move. And some people are going to see that and feel like he was more concerned with his image than with her healing. At the same time, he's a private person who did not have to say anything. He could have gone completely silent and let the cycle play out. He didn't. He put his kids' names in that statement. He named his grandchildren. He talked about raising his 16-year-old daughter as a single dad. That's not the behavior of someone who doesn't care. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, as it usually is. A man who genuinely regrets what he did, who has been living with it for 35 years, and who, when the moment came to say something publicly, tried to do it with integrity. Whether it was enough, that's for Gayle and her family to decide, not us. And that's where we're leaving it today. A 35-year-old story that suddenly feels very current. Because when someone with Gayle King's platform chooses to tell her truth, the world listens. And when the man at the center of it speaks up, even after all this time, it reminds us that accountability doesn't have an expiration date. What do you think? Did William Bumpus handle this the right way? Or was the statement too little, too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear where you all stand on this one. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss videos like this. We cover real stories, real people, Real conversations, no fluff, no fake drama. Just the facts, the context, and the conversation that actually matters. I'll see you in the next one.